Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah. I'm so glad to see you. Today we will be talking about things I find irresistibly chic, featuring my kitty Fox. We named her after a Fox Mulder from the X-Files, and we have a gray kitty named Scully. So you might see her. We also have a third kitty not affiliated with the X-Files. Got my handy dandy tablet. You're so cute, baby. Hey, Mama. Gonna help me? So this has been done endlessly, so why not pile on? I have a list of things that I find irresistibly chic for fall, winter, but also for spring, summer. This is definitely an evergreen list. I know it's going to continue to change, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the things I've really been focusing on that I find irresistibly chic. Textures, shapes, colors, draping, frills, the association with feelings, the evocative nature of fashion, of interior design, makeup, all of it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's talk a little bit about makeup. In particular, let's start with lipstick. So I love lipstick, and there's two different kinds of lipsticks that I'm really into lately. The first one being a nude pink. So for instance, I have been really into Sucker Punch. I recently rewatched it and was so obsessed with Baby Doll's makeup. In particular, her eye makeup and that beautiful nude lip that she has, of course, along with that gorgeous flush tone blush that she wears as well. I was able to find the face map, and I think they used MAC, if I'm not mistaken, but that lipstick, I think, is discontinued because I was so set on finding a gorgeous pinky nude lipstick. I did finally find it in L'Oreal. This is number 800 Fairest Nude. This one I have been loving. I'm wearing it today in combination with with another lipstick. It's great for everyday wear, but it's also great for a night out as well. And on top of that, just to kind of round out the lipsticks a little bit, because this one I also find incredibly chic, it is a cool muted pink. So like a cool tone muted pink, maybe even like something close to a mauve tone. This one is from Winky Lux, but there's lots of different ones. The ones I think I'm also thinking about are MAC Syrup, Pat McGrath in Divine Rose. Those ones are really what I'm into, and actually I'm wearing a combination of them today. I find them both to be so chic, but really what I like about this muted tone is it kind of reminds me of the 90s. Not so much with the reddish brown lipsticks, but something a little bit more fresh. Pink is my power color. I used to believe it was red, and I really wanted it to be red too, but honestly, I think pink is the one that's most me. I think pink definitely gives, again, a more playful side. It is a bit more chic. It's a little softer than red. And I still think that you can have a lot of power just by wearing pink. And along with that, just to kind of finish off this makeup category, there's two different kinds of makeup looks I love. The first one being the 60s mod graphic liner. You can't really tell, but I did a little bit of that today. And honestly, A, chic, B, classic, C, so interesting to look at. I think it's flattering on a lot of people, but especially on myself. I have deep set but very prominent eyes with a lot of lid space. So doing something like a mod graphic liner or anything really to do with lots of shadow, lots of liner on the eyelid, I think works really well. Another type of makeup look that I think is incredibly chic, I love the 90s, and there was this time in the 90s, probably like mid and then to late 90s, where a lot of people were doing a very gorgeous fresh face, but pairing it with a like bolder eye look and lip look. So think Christina Ricci, Rose McGowan, Nicole Kidman, and even in the 2000s, someone like Eva Green. I love this kind of look, and I think a part of it honestly has to do a lot with photography at the time. It sort of washes out the rest of the face. What remains are the eyes and the lips, and everything else is very much washed out. Okay, let's get into the fashion. What do I find irresistibly chic? What am I gravitating toward? What is so magnetic to me? So the first one is a simple silhouette. I think we talk a lot about cabmate or 90s minimalism at length, and it's for good reason. It's so classic. It looks chic, even though it is simple. So let me keep elaborating here. One of the things I really like about this is the long, clean lines. I like the fact that a lot of this type of fashion still can do leathers and still can do like really textured sweaters like these from Ralph Lauren. Gorgeous. And even these, although they might be simple, and especially these are really simple, I think a lot of the times we kind of wonder, is this fashion or is she just skinny? But I think something that we're missing here is energy. Are you actually comfortable in what you're wearing? And do you have the confidence to pull it off? I have something written down that I don't want to forget, that the simple silhouette focusing on the individual's energy and complementary nature with the garment is far more impactful than a maximalist look. Don't get me wrong, I love maximalism, but really what I'm talking about here is energy. If you were to have a completely simple look and not have the energy aligned with it or the confidence to pull it off, then the look falls apart. And the same thing can be said about maximalism. If you're wearing a bunch of stuff and you're going into the full maximalist look, but you're not fully selling it, you're not fully confident in it, it falls apart. It's like it's wearing you. But you should be wearing the clothes, and it should look like it's almost your uniform, like you were born to wear it. I love these types of simple silhouettes because of the fact that they fit well. They're a little bit more sleek. Sometimes they have an edgy or classic look, but altogether it's incredibly chic. Why? A lot of it has to do with the energy. Do you feel good wearing what you're wearing? Because if you don't, people can read it. People can read it even in photos, people can read it in video, and most certainly people can read it in real life. Well, let's talk about darker aesthetics. So this is a big umbrella term, and I'm going to try to break it down as much as I can. First part about darker aesthetics is dark wear, but in particular, giving the look of a vampire. I have been so drawn to this look from Nicole Kidman. These photos of Nicole Kidman have been living in my brain rent-free forever. She looks so much like Lestat from Interview with a Vampire, more than her ex-husband does, who starred as Lestat. And I think these photos were actually from the premiere, and she outshines him here by a long shot. She's wearing something super simple, right? She has a lovely blowout. She has a white collar button down, not buckle down. She has got a gorgeous blazer. Everything is really fitted though, and she looks good. There is so much confidence exuding from her, right? Like she's got a lot of magnetism, a lot of appeal. I love the fact that she paired it with a really dark eye and an equally dark lip. Obsessed with looking like a vampire, even if it's something that looks like that, right? Ever since probably I was 13 was the first time I really associated dressing like a vampire to feeling powerful. So let me paint you a picture. This was middle school, like when I was 13, and I was goth queen at the time in my own head. I'll try to find some photos. But I loved the aesthetic. I wanted like just to only wear black, to have like lots of lace and leather and satin and velvet and everything like that. And, you know, we couldn't really afford anything like that, so I had to make do. I was obsessed with that look, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was also obsessed with the 90s at that time too. So in middle school, we observed something called Law Day for social studies, and we were able to spend a full day at a courthouse, and we had to dress accordingly. Like that was a part of the assignment for some reason. So my aunt meticulously picked out my outfit. So she knew that I obviously loved darker colors, and that was kind of what she was working with. So she got me this like high collar button down chiffon top. It was semi-sheer, also with this lovely like ribbon necklace that I wore as well, and some nice bootleg pants. I scribbled a whole bunch of eyeliner on my eyes, as you would as a 13-year-old, and I don't think I had felt powerful until that day. My own like fantasy daydream where I was pretending to be a vampire lawyer, and that was such a fun time in my life. It was like just a quick moment. It's something that I always call back to whenever I have to dress professionally. I'm like, I get to dress like a vampire today. Now there's other darker aesthetics that I'm drawn to. I'm gonna just have a whole bunch here so you can take a look. What I love is a lot of these frills. I love the knitwear, especially where I live. It gets so cold. I like the mixture of wool with leather. I think that's so timeless. On top of that, this is like vampirate. I love this look. I love the frill. I actually have a lot of tops that look just like that. I love it. Oh my God, I am so incredibly drawn to it. Again, I like the really long, sleek silhouette. It's kind of like a column, right? That's usually what I'm drawn to. I used to really like a lot of like poofy, frilly things that would make my waist look really small and to make everything else look a little bit bigger. I used to really like that, and I still do, but lately I like a lot more like sleek looks mixed with something a bit more edgy. Don't get me wrong, I still love a lot of poof, I still love a lot of volume, but I think it's just kind of where I am right now. And then with that is something I call timeless romantic. So this one is, I guess, an umbrella term, because when you look at all these photos, what do you think of? I'm going to guess that you probably think of whimsy goth or whimsical. Maybe you think like 90s core or like soft grunge or soft goth, anything like that, right? I just like to call it timeless romantic. There's a very romantic feel about it, and I think it's the inclusion of velvet as well as lace. Gorgeous. The rich colors, the tones in this type of look is also so chic. Again, a lot of what I'm showing is like A-line, fit or flare, column or straight, but nothing that goes too beyond the lines of the body. So we're kind of thinking about things that skim the body, maybe are a little bit more well-tailored. Nothing too tight, although I have nothing against that. Okay, something else I find irresistibly chic. It's kind of a departure of what we just talked about, but there was a lot of photo shoots from like in a late 80s to the 90s magazine called Sassy. Now, I first learned about Sassy when I was really into, again, so obsessed with Kurt Cobain, Nirvana, but Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love. And I believe that they did a photo shoot together in that magazine. Anyway, that's not necessarily what I'm talking about, but that's how I learned about it. There's these photos from Sassy magazine that I love. I think most of them are from the early 90s. I love what they're doing here, but most of all, the juxtaposition of what is otherwise a very feminine way of dressing with some chunky combat boots. Now, this is actually classic now, but I don't even know how it was taken at the time, but regardless, it is a lovely balance of feminine and masculine, and it doesn't really overpower each other. They actually work beautifully together. Let me explain. Well, first of all, I love the cropped sweater with a mini skirt. It's still something I do today. I also think of Liv Tyler in Empire Records whenever I see anything like this. I also find that the looks that are a little bit more casual, but again, so chic, like this one, she's wearing a simple long black dress with a long cardigan. She's wearing Doc Marten loafers, and she's also decorated in quite a few accessories. I love it. See, this, of course, you might look at it and think, oh, it's so boring, but how are you carrying it? Because if you're not selling it and you're not feeling yourself, the other thing that I also find chic, you might find surprising because of everything I just said, is this photo here. I don't know why I think that this is so chic, but I think it hits on some of the stuff I just mentioned, which is a little bit more of a masculine footwear, like a boot, a combat boot with something that is traditionally feminine, a dress. And what she has here are two dresses, some ripped jeans, and some boots. So I love the fact that it's quite feminine on top and then not so feminine on the bottom. I love it. It also reminds me of this. This is Return of the Living Dead 3. Iconic. This is from the very early 90s. I love what the main character wears before the plot really gets going. She looks so good. She's also such an icon. But this one, just this photo, period. I wish I could do that with my hair on a day-to-day basis, but I'm not really good with my hair. But so much of what I see in Sassy magazine, this in particular, this is from 1991. Look at what she's wearing. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The boots, the layered tights, the gorgeous like shift dress that she's wearing with her natural curly hair. Gorgeous. Like, she looks so beautiful. This is actually from Sassy. This is Poppy Z Bright. I am actually reading a Poppy Z Bright book right now. I'm reading Exquisite Corpse. Amazing writer. Horror. Poppy Z Bright is like the horror equivalent of Dennis Cooper. This is not my book channel anymore, but just as like an aside, I love those two authors. That Dennis Cooper, Poppy Z Bright, great. They're kind of similar in a way in terms of what they write, how they write, the darker side of humanity and that psyche that not a lot of people like to explore, or if they do explore, they don't do it as well as these two. Let's keep going. Sorry about that distracting aside. I get excited when I talk about books, but I hope you can kind of see what I'm evoking here. I think that the 90s had a lot of amazing, amazing, amazing looks. I'm such a big fan of the 90s. Obviously, so much of my favorite media is from the 90s. A lot of my favorite memories are from the 90s, as well as the early 2000s as well. But I just have such a soft spot. There was so much I obviously couldn't partake in. So being able to partake in a lot of those trends or the way of dressing now as an adult. And that is essentially what I find so irresistibly chic. So let's do the very last thing. And it's not fashion, if you can believe it. It is actually interior design. Victoriana. I so badly, this is my dream, and it will become a reality, but it is my dream to live in a Victorian home. It could be a Victorian era home, a Victorian revival home. It could be even a Tudor home, or better yet, a Queen Anne. It really doesn't matter. Living in an old home, like a century home, is my dream. Are so hard to find in good condition these days. And if they are in good condition, many of them have been absolutely gutted and they look like clinics now. They've been given the landlord special or the Grage special. They don't look warm anymore. Sorry. So that's not irresistibly chic, right? But what is are these. I love it. So especially when it comes to interior design, I love Victorian interior design. Our last house, actually, our library was closely modeled to what I would consider, in my own fantasy world, a Victorian study or a Victorian library. That is what I find so irresistibly chic. I have probably about a dozen design books all about Victoriana, especially Victorian interiors, including colors, textures, wallpapers, right? The moldings that you would include, the different types of wall fixtures, everything. I am so dead set on having my century home, or conversely, if we ever have enough money, I would just build my own house to spec, because part of the reason that I would love to do that is that there have been homes in the past, usually built within the Victorian era, that are like nightmare homes. What really kind of calls to me is like doors that open up and lead to like a 25-foot drop, right? Like just out of nowhere, or stairs that lead to nowhere. Like these really weird little quirks in a house, or like, oh my God, something else I would love, even though it would be a nightmare if something bad were to happen, but like a little like tunnel system within the house that's like crawl space sized. Okay, I know that's not chic. I know none of this is chic, but to me, I don't know, when it comes to a bit of madness, I find it appealing. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this little look inside of my brain of some of the things that I find incredibly chic. What do you find incredibly chic? I love to keep the conversation going. Was there anything, I am curious if there's anything that I talked about that you also find chic as well. Maybe it was some of the makeup or the fashion, or even some of the interior design. I'd love to know. All right, everybody, if you liked this video, please consider giving it a like, a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this, and if you're curious to see what else I'm going to be up to, consider subscribing and following me on my other social media platforms. Thank you all so much, and take care.